Welcome, Roster Wars, to the United Nations Rookie Summit. I'm your host, Corbin, joined with Ross and Tyler, and today we are talking tight ends. What are you thinking about this class, you guys? I didn't really know too much until this week when I started diving in, but we've got some good ones that we'll talk about today, and some that probably won't mean shit for fantasy.
Yeah, I think it's relatively deep. I think and for NFL teams who are building their tight end rooms, I think there's a lot of value maybe in the mid rounds. Obviously, there's one guy who I think is going to get picked very, very early on, but yeah, there's a lot of, I think in terms of rankings, I think there's a lot of movement, so not everyone's going to have everyone ranked the same. There's a big chunk of players in the same tier in the mid rounds, I would say.
I agree. Big second
Felt like
tier for sure.
I feel like there's a lot of faster guys than normal. Just my
Yeah.
observation. They
Yeah.
seem like a faster class, but not as good.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering because a lot of these guys are undersized, and we'll talk about a few of them too. Like you'll see it on the rat scores, like everyone's just super undersized, but I just feel like that's kind of the way that tight ends are trending. They want to be more pass catchers. You don't have these 270-pound pseudo offensive linemen for you anymore, with the exception of a few guys. But it's definitely, that 240, 250-pound range, you're seeing it more and more commonly through some of these prospects. But today we're going to be going over Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, Max Klare from
Hey,
Ohio
Corbin.
State, and Jack Endries from Texas. But before we get to that, Tyler, why don't you tell us how we rank these guys from last year's class and give us a little preview on who our sleepers were as well.
All right, last year we did Ty Warren, Colston Loveland, Mason Taylor, and Harold Fannin Jr. And Warren, 17 games, 76 receptions, 112 targets, 817 yards, 4 TDs, drafted 14th overall by the Colts. Loveland, 16 games, 58 receptions, 82 targets, 713 yards, 6 TDs, drafted 10th by the Bears. Mason Taylor, 13 games, 44 receptions, 65 targets, 369 yards, 1 TD. Unfortunately, he was drafted second round, 42nd overall by the Jets. Poor guy. Harold Fannin Jr., 16 games, 72 receptions, 107 targets, 731 yards, 6 TDs. Round 3, drafted by the Browns, 67th overall. We had these guys ranked. I would say, obviously, Warren was the best for the numbers. He did have a rushing TD I missed in there, but yeah, we had Ross had Warren first, then Loveland, then Fannin, then Taylor. And Corbin had Loveland, then Warren, then Fannin, then Taylor. And I had Warren, Loveland, Taylor, Fannin. And then
Did I actually have that? I would have thought that I thought I put Fannin second over Loveland, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, you picked Loveland first.
All right. Tape don't lie.
It does not.
After 1 year, it's fine. Yeah, I think all of these guys are pretty decent. Obviously, the top two are very good, and Fannin as well had a very, very good season. So I wouldn't put any of us down for our rankings. I think that's pretty fair. Like all these guys are pretty good.
Yeah, nobody's putting you down, Ross. I mean, of course, this was picked, like you like to say, months before
Exactly.
they
Get me jail
found their
free.
teams. And unfortunately, for a guy like Taylor who found the Jets, you're not going to do much. Like you're not going to do what the other guys did when you have Justin Fields thrown to you.
Well,
So,
Justin Fields.
Mason Taylor.
Oh, nice.
I
nice.
like him. He's really good. The Jets are bad, but if the Jets were ever competent, he's going to be a big part of the offense. So watch out for Mason Taylor. Underrated. Underrated.
And I'll share a little tidbit. In these rankings, I had Fannin last, but I do remember the podcast from last year in Corbin talking about Fannin, and it kind of turned me on to Fannin. and then I drafted Fannin, and he's awesome. So thanks, Corbin.
Yeah, I remember. I love Fannin, so I guess I
Yeah.
had no
Good
balls.
thing these podcasts, were done. Otherwise, I would be without Fannin. Anyway, on to our sleepers. Ross took Elijah Arroyo. 13 games, 15 receptions, 26 targets, 179 yards, 1 TD. Round 2, 50th overall by the Seahawks. He does have a Super Bowl championship to his
There you
name.
go.
Corbin took Luke Lashy. Did not play. Drafted round 7, 255th by the Texans. I took Orlando Gadsden the second. 15 games played, 49 receptions, 69 targets, 664 yards, 3 TDs. Drafted round 5, 165th overall by the Chargers. And honestly, I picked him because his name is fun.
You walked into that one, I think, but it was
Yeah.
a good pick. I think he was on everyone's taxi squad, and he got a lot of poacher attempts during the year for fantasy purposes. Turned out okay.
Yeah, and he's in line to see more. I mean, we'll see how the draft shakes out, but unless the Chargers are reaching pretty early, I can't see anybody really taking his spot right here and now. But yeah, that's a good pick, Tyler. So Iowa tight ends and guys with cool names. That's who you target. Translate to fantasy success. Keep that in mind, folks.
And whoever Tyler says is going to be awesome. You pick.
True. So listen up.
This year.
It'll become except this year. Okay. All right. Well, still keep an eye out. Maybe take a 7th round flyer on whoever Tyler's about to say. He's got a strong track record, as you can see. But let's get into it, guys. We've got 4 guys we're talking about today. I'll repeat it again. We got Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, Max Klare from Ohio State, and Jack Endries from Texas. So we'll start here with Kenyon Sadiq. If you haven't heard of Kenyon Sadiq yet, you absolutely should. He's a guy that there's rumblings about him being that, the next first round tight end. And I think that he will go in the first round. It's almost a certainty. How high will he go? That's the question. A lot of people have him in their top 15, some in the top 10. And it's because this guy is a straight athletic freak. He blew up the combine. He's 6'2", 241 pounds, 21 years old, junior coming out of Oregon. He had a 9.49 RAS score. He ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, which is an all-time record for a 40 by a tight end. Wide receivers don't even run that fast, and he's 241 freaking pounds. So his athletic scores are right up there with DK Metcalf, who, if you remember when he came out, was a combine darling. He has perfect splits on his 40-yard dash. It's like a 9.99, which shows he is able to get up to full speed super quick. He's got perfect explosion scores, another 9.99, I believe. No agility. So that means he is putting up numbers that nobody has ever done before at the combine. The testing alone, it shows you just how great of an athlete he is, and the tape confirms that as well. You're getting a very fast guy, very athletic guy. Stats-wise, last year in 14 games, he had 51 catches for 560 yards with 8 touchdowns. And in 2024, through 14 games, he had 24 catches for 308 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we've had a lot of guys who are in this first-round conversation. And Ross, I know that you hate drafting these first-round tight ends on your fantasy team, but I don't see him getting out of the first round in your fantasy drafts. If you want a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, you're going to have to pony up a first-round pick for him.
Yeah, that was one of my big points is where is he going to go? And I'll get to his traits in a wee second, but he's going in the 106 to 111 range. That's my guess. Like after the top 3 wide receivers, Love, and then probably Mendoza, he's in that range somewhere. And yeah, I'm not going to be the one drafting him. Let's be honest. Someone else is going to take him before me. I'm not interested in tight ends at that price. I know it's maybe a symptom of the class in general, maybe not being as exciting as previous years. But we had Warren and Loveland go last year. That was around maybe the turn. That was around 111, 112, something like that. you're maybe going to have to pay, let's say, 107, 108 for Sadiq. And to me, he's not in that class. He's a great athlete, and that pure speed, you can see it on tape as well. Like the acceleration is obvious. Like when he plants his foot and drives across the field on crossers, when he's stretching the seam as well, you can see it. He's pulling away from defenders, and he's trying to hurdle people as well all the time. So it's obvious. You think he's really good at high pointing the ball. He's got good ball skills and body control, and he makes some real highlight plays. Um, and I think the highlight plays are really some of the best things you'll see from a tight end, like the speed, the athleticism, the ball skills. To me, right now, he's not a consistent down to down reliable player. He's more of like a big play player right now, at this stage in his career, and he's still very, very young. And he's got a lot of development to do, and he's got that athleticism that could maybe open him up to more. I think sometimes his route run is not quite as sharp to help him gain separation. It's more just the speed. Sometimes he does do it, and when you see it, when he flashes, you're like, wow, that's incredible. But it's not down to down. It's not every single time. And I don't know if it's laziness or maybe he just knows the ball isn't coming his way. But either way, I thought it was notable. Um, and yeah, the other thing, maybe he doesn't break tackles as much as I'd like. It's because he's all about speed, and he'll find holes and he'll take it to the house. But I like my big guys to be big guys and break tackles. So nitpicking again, but those are maybe a couple of downsides. And in terms of blocking, I thought he was asked to block in line a lot more than I thought. After just watching him casually, I thought he was good. He was pretty good. I don't think that's going to be his role at the NFL level, but he showed like he was well and he had enough effort there. And yeah, it's a small positive for him, I would say. But yeah, I don't like tight ends. I don't think he's as good as maybe Loveland and Warren, but still really, really good player. He's going to be a valuable sort of situational weapon in an offense right away, I think, and then he's got room to grow because he's very young.
I think he's great. I mean, to be that size and run that speed is it's kind of sickening, to be honest. Um, but yeah, everything you said, like, yeah, matches. So cool stuff. I kind of project like an Aaron Hernandez type, but without
Murder.
the murders, maybe,
Double homicide.
hopefully. I mean, we can all pray that he doesn't murder people, but um, yeah, I mean, I think in the right offense, you know, some good screen plays for this guy might do the trick. Shit like that, Word.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to get some Kyle Pitts comps, and I don't. It's hard for me to kind of explain those away just because of the athleticism itself. I do think that he needs to improve as a route runner. He's not the best, but you can work on that at the NFL level. I thought he was a decent blocker, but he's not going to be asked to be that straight George Kittle inline tight end kind of guy. You're going to see him out on the slot. You're going to see him flexed out wide. I saw that Oregon set him in motion a lot as well. So he does have that versatility, which is, a nice thing that he has in his game. Yak is another thing with tight ends that I look at too. He's not just, catching the ball in traffic and going down. Like he has that shiftiness to make guys miss, get an extra 5-10 yards out of a play instead of just going straight down. So his hands are another thing. So he has very strong hands. Like he catches the ball in traffic, and when he has his hands on it, he's not letting go. But you do see some focus drop show up on tape. Not too big of a concern with that, just something to keep an eye out on. But very smart. He understands where to settle in those zones. Like, I mean, you talk about Travis Kelce and his understanding of, just kind of making his own hot routes and settling in the zone. And Patrick Mahomes knows he's going to be there. I could see something like that develop in his game eventually. The one landing spot that I've seen him mock that is very interesting to me is to the Rams with that, what is it, pick 14 or so that they have. I think that's a solid spot for him with Devontae Adams getting a little bit older. I think he could settle into that real nice and kind of be that 1B to Puka Nacua. Plus, with Puka's offseason shenanigans, like, are the Rams going to re-sign him? I don't know what their contract situation is, like the cap room, but Kenyon Sadiq could be, in a couple of years, the number one option for the Rams. Matt Stafford's up in the air too, but I just can't get over that landing spot. I think it would be super juicy if he went to LA.
Well, he's got competition. Terence Ferguson, who kept Sadiq from being a full-time guy at Oregon, is on the Rams as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
quite funny. But yeah, that's another thing with Sadiq. He's got like 1 year of like full production. Obviously he's coming out early because it was such a good year. But just another thing to think about. I guess I see him mocked quite a lot to the Panthers. Like I went through a mock drafts and 15 mock drafts, and literally like 10 of them had him going to the Panthers. So and that's interesting. I think for fantasy purposes, you want him somewhere where he's as minimum the number two receiver. Be difficult to find him getting lost in a situation. So I'll be anxious to see where he does go. If he goes somewhere like the Panthers, where he's maybe more along to the top of the depth chart, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got to go somewhere that has a solid blocking tight end already in house. So he has, they can run two tight end sets on first down. He'll be on the field, split out, in the slot or out wide. But if they don't have a lot of depth at tight end, they don't have a good blocking tight end. I see him struggling in line, not only with blocking, but just being in line, not having that space. It's going to be tougher if you get chipped by an edge or a linebacker, and then a safety's covering you. That kind of takes back how he wins with his speed. He wants to have like a one-on-one and just beat the guy. Corners, safeties, linebackers, especially, they're going to have to respect him, give him some space, and that buffer is going to create separation. So I like the player a lot, and I think athletically he warrants a first-round pick. But again, like everyone's been burned by those first-round tight ends. We had a really good class coming out last year that produced right off the bat. I do think he kind of falls in that bucket as the same as Loveland and Warren. So yeah, he's definitely a guy to consider. I mean, if you need a tight end, you got a first round pick. If you're in those later rounds and he slips to like 110, you're really going to be thinking, okay, am I going to get like the number two running back who might not be worth a first round pick, or am I going to get like a Chris Brazel or somebody after like Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion that we talked about? Are you going to take Omar Cooper over Kenyon Sadiq? Like, I don't know. That's for me. I think I would be pulling the trigger back into the first on Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, and it depends who else goes in the first round because draft capital's big to me. If we get 5 first round receivers, you might see him fall a bit, like you said, just with the positional value, wide receiver. But yeah, I think he'll definitely go before 111, 112
Now, where would
in
you
my
take
mind.
it, Ross?
I need to go through it and see who goes where, but second round minimum, second round maximum, whatever. I'm not taking him until the second round just because he's a tight end. I fucking hate tight ends.
So even at 112, no matter what, every good receiver, running back, quarterback's gone.
Maybe I'll maybe
I
take him
think
and
he
then
got
flip
it.
him to
All
someone else.
right. He doesn't want to show his hand. I see.
I figured out why Ross hates me
First round boys.
Why?
because I played tight end. So
That's it right there.
Ross hates tight ends.
Nothing to do with you being Canadian or anything. So you're a former tight end.
Just kidding. I didn't get to play football.
All right,
Anyway,
well, let's move on to this next guy
that's
here. So we got Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt. He's 22 years old, a senior coming out, another athletic freak. Numbers that are rivaling Kenyon Sadiq. He is not far off. He bounced around to different colleges. He started at Texas A&M. He went to New Mexico State, I believe, for just a year before he finished up at Vanderbilt. He's 6'3", 239 pounds, so another relatively undersized guy we're talking here, but he has a 9.39 RAS score. He ran a 4.51 40-yard dash, which is, it would be tops in the class in a lot of other giraffes. Elite splits there. Perfect explosion scores, another 9.99, 10 RAS score on vertical and broad jump. No agility testing. Through 12 games last year, he had 62 catches for 769 yards and 4 touchdowns. And in 2024, through 13 games, he had 49 catches for 638 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, you look at the athletic testing numbers again, and then you turn on the tape, and he's another guy who wins with speed. He can press vertically. He's got good hands. He's got the yak ability. I was actually pleasantly surprised when I turned on the Stowers tape. I kind of thought it was going to be Sadiq and nobody else, but he's another guy that could go in the first round in the NFL draft, and he's another guy that could go back end of the first round in your fantasy draft. With us being an IDP, that kind of throws a wrench in. He might be an early second guy, but if you're looking at just like straight superflex tight end premium leagues, offense only, I don't really see him getting out of the first.
That's big. That's big. Um, I just wanted to. I found out something. He's a quarterback. He was initially recruited as a quarterback. He was the number 12 quarterback ranked in the country, just ahead of Jackson Dart and Jalen Milrow. So there you go. We got a
Hmm.
fun fact. So he's only been playing the position for like
Stealing
3 years.
my facts.
Um, and yeah, I think he's a bigger wide receiver, I would say. Like he's a flex tight end, but he's like a complete zero as a blocker. So some people have like that for fantasy. They think, oh, he's every time he's on the field, he's a threat to receive the ball. Um, Me personally, I'm still battling with it, like where I would rank him. But yeah, he's when you watch him, he's got really good hands. He can make tough catches while absorbing the contact. He's climbing the ladder, making high point and leaping catches, and obviously had an elite vertical jump as well. Was it 43 and a half inches or something like that? It was crazy.
I didn't take down the
Um,
numbers, but yeah, it's one of the best ever. I think Sadiq was like 41 and he was 43, maybe. I think that Stowers beat Sadiq in the vertical, actually.
Yeah, and I think as well, like even for his size, he's got nice route running. I think he understands zones as well, and I think he could be that sort of safety blanket over the middle of the field. He's got sharp breaks and he can create separation by himself as well. And I thought he was decent after the catch as well. Obviously he's got the speed as well, but yeah, I think he's a really good receiver. Um, and yeah, it's just where you value that, because like I said, he's not giving you anything as a blocker. So where's the landing spot? Is he going to be one of the top targets in the offense? And does that warrant a first round pick? Since Corbin's saying he's going to go in the first round pick.
Since Corbin says. That tells you all you need to know, folks.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go in the first round mainly because of his blocking. Um, I used to be the guy who you guys would pretty much say everything about the guy before it came to me. And then I'd say some like obscure thing about the guy, like find out like if he's, like Travion Henderson's got the hugest dick in the world and just shit like that, I find that out. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
How'd you find it out?
Some chick on when those guys ask people outside like outside a bar and stuff, those
Yeah.
influencers. Well, some woman was being interviewed and she started talking about a running back who played for Ohio State who had the hugest dong she's ever been with, and that it was like down past his knee. And then the guy was like, "Oh yeah," and she went, "Yeah, he went to the NFL. He plays for the New England Patriots now." And I was like, "Okay."
Who could it
Anyway,
be?
yeah. So off topic. My big thing about Stowers was as of being like, yeah, he used to be a former quarterback. And Ross just like
I'm sorry.
swooped in and was like,
I'm sorry.
fuck you, Tyler. I'm taking this. So
We can let you start if you want. But
anyway, I don't think that. No, I like the way it is. Anyway, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I think I just think the bad blocking is going to be an issue. So I'm
Yeah.
not huge on this guy. But
Yeah, I agree because the difference between Sadiq and Stowers for me is I have like my pros and cons list. All the pros are pretty much the same. He wins with speed. He's got good hands, quick in and out of breaks, create separation. He'll get you yak. He can line up anywhere, but at the NFL level, he's not your inline tight end. I give Sadiq the nod. Just because of blocking alone, Sadiq is capable, or Stowers just really hasn't shown anything there. I do think that the receiving qualities that he has warrants an end of the first round selection. Realistically, I think that he'll go early to mid second round. but I don't think that the gap is as big as some people might think. I think the one thing that you could say is his blocking is not as good as Sadiq's, which is going to prohibit him from getting on the field and obvious rushing first down, second down, and short stuff like that. They're going to opt to go with a different option on the field over him, but the receiving tools are 100% there. All we really care about is how much can you produce for me in fantasy football, and he has the tools to be a startable guy at the tight end position for sure. Yeah, a little very undersized too. He's under 240 pounds, so it's just that strength when he steps up to the NFL. He's not going to anchor against defensive ends. He can get jammed against some more physical corners. There could be some issues, but he's got the tools to be a solid fantasy contributor.
Yeah, if we're comparing him to Sadiq, I think he's got better route running ability, or at least more consistent. Like I see him actually running proper routes, and that's why I say he's just a bigger wide receiver. Whereas Sadiq's like maybe a fast tight end, if that makes any sense to anyone. Um, but yeah, so I see him do a lot more polished stuff as a route runner, and that's creating separation by himself. So he's not required to be schemed open or anything like that, and that's a very big quality.
Yeah, I think Sadiq's a little bit more powerful as a runner too. You see him I don't know, like there's a
He's
couple players
muscled
where I'm
up,
like,
yeah.
man, it kind of looks like a running back, like it's not ready to drop the shoulder pad and knock into a guy, where Stowers is more about just making a guy miss. I think I like Sadiq's run after the catch ability a little bit better too. But like I said, guys, like we're not poo-pooing on this guy whatsoever. He is not that far off from Sadiq. So if Sadiq, I know he gets all the hype, all the love, he's potentially a top 10 NFL draft pick. Stowers is a guy where you can get a little bit more value, and they're very similar players. That's all I'm trying to say.
Word.
So let's take a look at this next guy here. Our third prospect of the day is Max Klare out of Ohio State. He's 22 years old, junior coming out. Started his career at Purdue. He played 3 years there before he transferred to Ohio State. Tyler, I know that you love guys who play offense and defense. What about a guy that plays QB, tight end, and even kicks field goals? He was a kicker in high school too. That's versatility.
Yeah, sounds like me.
Yeah, right there, right up your alley, bud. So you might have to adjust those rankings if you didn't know that. But he's 6'4", 246 pounds, no combine testing, which is a little strange. Sometimes like these top end guys can hurt their stock by having poor testing at the combine. Max Klare is a guy who's like a bona fide first, second round pick. Why didn't he test at the combine? That's kind of like one of my knocks against him. Like, you see the athleticism on tape, you just want to see it validated at the combine. I think Ohio State's had their pro day too, so I don't know if we're ever going to get those numbers. Yeah.
He didn't run it at pro day.
Yeah. So that's just like, why? Why not? You have the potential to step into the day two conversation, early day two, and you just don't test. So I think that he kind of hurt his draft stock, in my opinion. But last year at Ohio State, in 14 games, he had 43 catches for 448 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2024 at Purdue, through 12 games, he had 51 catches for 685 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he stepped up going to Ohio State. They're still playing the Big Ten schedule, but production actually fell just a bit. Obviously, he has more competition at Ohio State, but the numbers kind of back it up. Like statistically, he wasn't as good of a receiver at Ohio State than he was at Purdue. But again, there's a lot of traits that he shows on tape that translate well when it comes to determining if you're going to be a successful NFL tight end or not. So I like the player, but there's still a lot of questions that I have about him. So I'm not really too sure what to think about him. And he's a little polarizing. I don't know where he goes in the NFL draft or in our fantasy football draft at this point.
Yeah, I think the final year wasn't his best in terms of production. He got a little bit lost in the sauce in Ohio State when he transferred up, but when he was called upon, he did make some plays. But prior to that, like 2 years before that, he was in Purdue, and he had great production. He was his team's top target. I don't think they had a great team. They maybe only like won a couple of games, but he was the man. And production is something that I'm looking more for at tight end more recently, like having a college offense built around you, or I suppose maybe more importantly, the other teams are trying to stop you because you're the main man, and still being able to produce on top of that. So if you go back to his 2024 tape, I think it's a lot better and it's a lot easier to see stuff that will translate. I think he's got good hands. He's making adjustments to bad throws and tipped balls and things like that. And he's creative after the catch as well. That's what I really like about him. He can find big plays. Doesn't really have the long speed to sort of take it to the house like Sadiq, but he can give you a couple of moves and can create more yards after the catch. And yeah, not a bad athlete. We don't know based on obviously the testing, but I don't think he was a freak athlete, but he's not a bad athlete. So he's sort of like an in between guy. Like he does a lot well, but nothing like amazing, I would say. So yeah, like it's difficult to project how he's going to do at the next level. Does he just keep being at the next level a guy who does everything well? Because if you're in the NFL and you're doing everything well, nothing great, that can be productive for fantasy.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think this guy's the best route runner out of these tight ends in this class. And some things about him. His family all played football. His dad was a nose guard for Boston College, and his uncles also played college ball. His brother, maybe a reason why he left Purdue, because his brother is also a tight end at Purdue. So maybe he was opening a spot for his bro. I don't know. Or maybe they don't like each other and he's like, fuck, I'm not playing with that guy. Who knows? As that site I follow where they kind of try to predict the guy's 40 based upon a bunch of technology and stuff when they don't run, he is at a 470 40 time. But
Yeah.
Average.
I think this guy is somebody that you can have on the field for every play and be perfectly comfortable with him. I really like him. I kind of got a Mark Andrews comp, and yeah, you'll find out.
Yeah, I think he's a lot more well-rounded. When we're talking Sadiq and Stowers, they win with speed and their quickness. I think that he wins a little bit more with savvy. You know, you had mentioned his route running ability, and it's not just his quickness in and out of breaks. It's the sophistication of the route tree in totality. You know, he has a very, very big route tree. You know, he can pretty much do whatever you ask him to. The run after the catch ability is another thing, Ross, I think you mentioned. I think that's there. He looks great. You know, he has the little shiftiness to make guys miss. He also isn't afraid to drop a shoulder and run a guy over too. Really good understanding of zone concepts. He has the versatility to line up in line all the way out wide to slot. They send him in motion. Decent blocker, but I don't think that he's going to be the best. I don't think he'll be best used in line at the NFL level, particularly in run blocking. You know, 246 pounds, another smaller guy. He's going to need some help from the tackle there. Another thing, too, was he had some drop issues at Purdue, and I will say that he cleaned that up a bit at Ohio State, but just another thing to keep an eye on. 2023, he had an ankle injury as well. I think he played like 5 or 6 games only in 2023, but it's an ankle injury. It sounds like it was a bad one. Just another thing to keep an eye on here. But solid player, you know, like I don't know if he is going to be a top 10 tight end in terms of fantasy at any point through his career, but you know, he's worth a shot at least with one of your mid-round picks. I think he's a pretty solid prospect.
Word.
Ross, it looks like you're dying to say something.
No, I honestly I don't have much to say about him. More than that, I think we covered quite a lot, to be honest.
Ross
Yeah.
hates tight ends.
I think it's safe to say there's a bit of a teardrop after Sadiq and Stowers. And I think Matt Klare is probably the top of that second tier. Yeah, I can't put him that high up. I mean, if you really like the guy, you could take like maybe a 4th rounder in a roster wars draft. But I don't know. We'll see where he goes. We'll see the draft capital a team invested in that might change my opinion. But That's just a raw prospect. I think he's a guy that does things well, but nothing elite. And I like to see a guy who has those elite traits, particularly with tight ends when you want to be that solid receiver, and he's got room for improvement in a lot of areas. So last guy that we're going to talk about today until we get into our rankings and sleepers is Jack Endries out of Texas. He's 22 years old, a junior coming out. He walked on at Cal. He played there his first 3 years before he finished at Texas. He is 6'4", 245 pounds, another great athlete. He has a 9.44 RAS. He ran a 4.62 40-yard dash with elite splits, elite explosive scores, no agility at testing. In 2025 at Texas, through 13 games, he had 33 catches for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2024 at Cal, in 13 games, he had 56 catches for 623 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a different kind of prospect. This is your sure-handed, kind of safety valve tight end. But, athletic, like he just doesn't have like the route running. The speed is there. You can kind of see it on not only on the testing but on tape. But I don't know, just kind of a little bit of a different flavor of tight end than the other guys we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I think we see him similar. I think the biggest thing that came to me was his hands. He's got great hands. He makes so many tough catches. When he's about to take a hit over the middle of the field, I think he had 0 drops as well. From what I've seen, like very, very good. And like you said, he's reliable. I think he's got high football IQ as well. And after the catch, he'll take what's there. He'll use his athleticism to take what's there, but he's not really forcing any missed tackles or giving you much more than that. I don't think he was a 0 as a blocker, and I think that's something he could probably get better at in the NFL. He was asked to do it a lot more at Texas than he was previously. He was previously at Cal, and I thought he did well with what he was asked to do. But yeah, the year before, I think he had a really good connection with Fernando Mendoza, who was the quarterback at Cal in 2024. Um, Looked like everything they were doing was improvised, where Endries would just find an open area in the middle of the field and just go to work. But that's probably not the case. But again, it probably speaks to his sort of high football IQ and reliability to sort of build a connection with a quarterback, and that's exactly what you want. I don't think he was a really great route runner. There's no real sharpness or wiggle in his routes, but I think in general profiles is more like a traditional inline tight end who can contribute as a receiver. I think if you're asking him to line up out wide and sort of run routes or create separation on his own, he's going to struggle to be a difference maker. But yeah, I think my comparison for him was like Jake Ferguson, who's just like a very reliable middle of the field guy. And if he goes to the right offense, who's got a quarterback he can build a connection with, that could be productive for fantasy if he's more of a high volume guy. I think he does bring. I think he's maybe like going to be a tight end too for a long time in the NFL, just because of that reliability. He's got great hands, making tough catches over the middle of the field.
That's interesting. I've seen two comparisons to Mason Taylor on this guy, but yeah, the great thing about guys that are like this who have a pretty good upside is when they're walk-ons, it becomes a great feel-good movie if they make it. And I could like that the actor from Shameless who played Lip. He could definitely play this guy in a movie, but he might be a little too short. They'd have to do some shit with that. But anyway, yeah, this guy is definitely the 4th best out of these 4 tight ends, and might be better than my sleeper. I don't know. But yeah, I had a Mason Taylor, Dalton Schultz type. From what I read, he can be overpowered if he's trying to block and somebody's a little more physical than him. He kind of doesn't like it. So, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's a safety valve kind of guy. He is a true pass-catching tight end. And I mean, when I say that, I mean, like, he catches the balls and that's it. There's not much yak to speak of. He can drop the shoulder, maybe get a couple more yards, but he's not making guys miss and taking it for an extra 5, 10, 15 yards after that. maybe like 2-3 yards tops. He's just a jump ball kind of guy, which could be very nice if a team deploys him in their red zone package. Like Ross mentioned, if he develops that rapport with his quarterback and becomes that, tried and true trusted tight end, he could pick you up a first down. I could see him being a top 10 tight end in terms of fantasy football at some point, but he's never going to give you that elite production. I think all the guys that we've talked about, they can dabble in the top 5, top 3 tight end conversation potentially at some point in their career. I just don't see it with Endries. I think that, he is just simply that safety valve kind of guy. He will need to have a lot of targets to really get you a lot of fantasy value. But I mean, we'll see where he goes. I mean, he's definitely a guy you want to monitor, like a late round flyer. I don't think that would be a bad idea. Stash him on your taxi squad. If, the first couple of weeks he's starting to get targets going his way, might be time to bump him up before somebody tries a poach attempt. He's not off my board entirely. It's just I don't think that he has a ton of upside. More of a high floor, low ceiling kind of guy for me.
It's difficult with tight ends, like you say. Like some guys can flash one season and be a top 10 tight end because it takes practically nothing to be a top 10 tight end because the position's got such little elite talent, I would say. So a lot of the guys we've mentioned today, Dalton Schultz, things like that, like they're literally guys who had one really, really good season and turned into a fantasy producer. So find out when that one season he's going to flash is and then take advantage.
Yep. All right. So that's going to be the 4 guys that we're talking about today. I have a feeling that our rankings are going to be the same across the board on this one. I could be wrong, but Tyler, how about you kick it off with the rankings here? What do you have on Sadiq, Stowers, and Endries?
You are wrong because I got Sadiq first, and then I really liked Max Klare. I'm going with him second. Stowers third, and Endries fourth.
I was wrong.
You were wrong.
Ross,
Are you wrong about me as well? No, I don't think so. I'm Sadiq 1, Stowers 2. There's probably a tier break there. If there's not one between 1 and 2, there's definitely one after 2. And then I'm going Jack Endries, whatever you want to call him. And then Klare after that. I think, to me, draft capital landing spot matters a whole lot to me because I don't think there's a consensus on where these guys are going to go. It's a mid-round sort of fog. So yeah, but to me right now, that's the way I see it.
Okay. Yeah, I was wrong. I thought we would be aligned, but I've got Sadiq number 1, Stowers number 2. I'd say almost a tier break. I would say like 1A and 1B for sure with Sadiq and Stowers. Like I do like Stowers a lot, and I think that you can get him. Like I bet you I will have more Stowers shares than I will have Sadiq shares just because of the hype around Sadiq and the value with Stowers. So, but I do like both players. I think they're both in the first round conversation. Sadiq especially. Stowers, I don't think he won't get to the third round. He'll be a second round pick if he's not a first. I got Max Klare at 3, and then I've got Endries at 4. I think that Max Klare does have a bit more of a ceiling. It's just the testing numbers that are just kind of throwing me off. And then Endries, he's just, that higher ceiling, lower floor kind of guy. I don't really care to have like a top 12 tight end. I'm looking for that top 5 kind of guy, which is kind of the difference for me. But there is a big tier gap between Stowers, Klare, and Endries. And draft capital and the landing spot could flip those rankings for me. Yeah, I mean, we'll see where these guys go. They could be playing tight end too. Somebody goes down, they could be thrust into that role, and like a guy like Endries could be getting 5 targets a game. He could be solid on a bye week or something like that. So yeah, the 3 and 4. They're interchangeable, but I would never put either of those guys over like a Stowers. I don't think, no matter how the landing spot situation shakes out. All right.
Cool.
We got them ranked, boys. Let's get into the sleepers. Tyler, who is your Canadian prospect of the day?
Hey, I'm not always going to pick Canadians.
Did you do it this time?
Anyway, my prospect is well off the board. Nobody knows of him. His name is Rohan Jones. He played with Maine, Montana State, and last year with Arkansas. He is height 6'3", 242 pounds. His role, he's a tight end hybrid, H-back hybrid. And, and he's from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
That's
right. Yeah. This guy is not your typical tight end right now. He's got potential. He's got the size. He's got the ability. He just doesn't have the work in yet. I believe it was hard to find anything on him because he's so obscure, but I believe these were last year's numbers. He had 19 receptions, but he had 519 yards and he had 4 TDs. Now, I think that was somewhere around like 27.3 yards per catch. And this guy is all home run hitter style tight end. He is, he's awesome. I mean, not a lot of targets to go off of. He did have 0 drops last year. And this guy, he can line up in line. He can line up in a slot. And like I said, he can line up in the backfield.
You say he went to Arkansas?
Yeah.
Yeah. 27.3 yards per reception on him.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
That's what I said. The other thing is I did not find a 40 on him, but his estimated is around 4.5. So he is fast, boy. And he's too fast for linebackers and too physical for safeties. So this guy, I believe, probably late round draft pick or undrafted, but probably a guy who is going to take a few years sitting on special teams, learning how to block, learning how to be a tight end, learning how to run better routes. And I kind of got a high ceiling of Jonah Smith comp to him. But he's fun because he's Canadian. And also, imagine if he went to like the Chiefs and he could learn behind like Kelsey and whoever else the hell they got there, and then that'd be
so. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get off topic a little bit. I am so sick of people elevating the Chiefs like they're not that good of a fantasy landing spot.
Oh, no.
Like he can learn behind Travis Kelsey, and like people are just going to draft any Chiefs running back, any Chiefs wide receiver, any Chiefs tight end. When have they actually had like a solid fantasy producing player outside of Travis Kelsey in the last 5 years? It's been since Tyreek.
Rashee Rice.
He can't stay on the field.
The only thing he did
he had a solid fantasy though when he is.
The only thing he did elite is not kill somebody with his like 4 or 5 car pileup, whatever it was.
I mean,
I get what you're saying.
The top 12 though.
We can get on the topic of the Chiefs sucking because I love it. I don't hype Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he's as great as everybody says he is. I don't think Travis Kelsey's better than Gronkowski. I don't think that any of those wide receivers are anything shit. I think Tyreek Hill was the best wide receiver they ever had. I think the reason why I say Chiefs would be good for Jones is because of Andy Reid. And I believe that a lot of what Kelsey does is because of Andy Reid. So
Rashee Rice has never had 1,000 yards. He's never had 100 catches. His best finish in PPR was 27th his rookie year. After that, 99th and 40th. Now, obviously,
is that total points or points per game? Because he's been suspended for half the season most of the time.
Total points, and even his
points per game last year.
Targets, but
fifth in points per game last year.
Do people realize how easy it is for a quarterback to change his arm angle and throw sidearm?
Not easy.
It is easy. I've done it my whole life.
Matt
Growing up playing baseball, like I could throw overhand, I could throw sidearm, I could throw on, like it's not hard at all. I could throw on the run. I remember playing in university flag football league, and they wouldn't let me play QB. And then the one game they finally let me, and I started my throwing motion like this, and the guy went up like this to block me as he was rushing me, and I went and I threw it under like this, and it was so easy, and it went right under his armpit, right to my receiver, and everybody stopped and looked and went, "What the hell was that?" Because in Canada, you don't see that shit.
And who was in the stands for that game? Patrick Mahomes.
And he learned from me.
Yep.
I don't even think he was born yet. He might not have been born. Who knows?
Well, all I'm saying is just, I'll let other people fall into the trap. I am so sick of people thinking that the Chiefs are just some mouth-watering fantasy landing spot because other than like Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, there are no other examples you can give me. No one else has worked out.
Hey, if you guys ever want to just have a podcast like running down the Chiefs, that would be awesome. We could do that.
We can look into it. I don't think we'll catch any hate either. We don't have any Chiefs fans in roster wars that I know of. So,
okay, Ross, let's hear your sleeper.
Well, first of all, I think what Corbin's saying, I get what you're saying, Corbin. It's not a plug and play like the McVay offense or something. Like anyone that goes in there is going to be a fantasy producer. But I do think if you get the right person in there, being linked with Patrick Mahomes is pretty good, and I think that's what people navigate towards.
Ross, we moved on.
Let's wrestle this back. Let's wrestle this back. My tight end sleeper, I'm going deep again. A guy I really love. He's actually in my top 5. It's Daquan Wright out of Ole Miss. So projected like 6th or 7th round pick right now. He's a 4-year starter, played the last 2 years at Ole Miss. And in 2025, he had 635 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's 6'4", 246 pounds, but he's honestly the biggest 6'4", 246 pounds that I've ever seen. He looks much bigger than the field. He's a big, thick lad, and I think he's a decent enough blocker. But in general, he moves really, really well for his size. And he's clearly a good athlete. No testing. He's in the whole bucket of not testing for no reason, combine and pro day. But yeah, when he's in routes, he sinks his hips to get open. He's got breakaway speed, multiple long touchdown runs, accelerating away from defenders. And I think his yards after the catch, that's one of his best skills. And it's not just speed; he's so difficult to take down as well after the catch, and that's like using his speed, making a move, or just like strength. Just riding tackles. I think he's got good hands as well, and he seems smart enough to find space in the middle of the field. Really like him. He's some of the metrics I was looking at as well for the class in general. He's got one of the highest average depths of target of 8.1, and the yards after catch per reception these are of 8.4 throughout his career. In terms of yards after catch, Kenyon Sadiq's the next highest at 6.6. And then Daquan Wright's quite missed tackles forced is really high as well. So that's kind of player you're getting. High average depth of target, high missed tackles forced. That equals amazing fantasy player for me. Check him out.
All right. Well, I was down between 2 guys for my pick, and I will admit I'm not.
Sorry, I just want to say one thing about Ross's guy. I'm very happy that in 2025 he had sex, Ross. That's awesome. Anyway, Corbin, go on.
Okay. Good for him. I'll bet you most of these guys have. If they haven't, maybe hit the transfer portal. But I was down between 2 guys, and I'll admit this isn't my true sleeper. I have one guy that I'm going to hold on to and wait to see where he lands because I like him a lot. This guy is right up there with him for me. He has one wart that makes it really tough for me, but I'm going to talk about Sam Roush out of Stanford. He's 22 years old, senior coming out. As a kid, his family moved all over the world. They lived in 3 different continents, over 7 moves. He grew up playing rugby in Indonesia. He's got NFL bloodlines. His great uncle is Hall of Famer Merlin Olsen. He was a D tackle for the Rams. His grandpa played in the NFL as well. Very smart guy. He was in like some engineering program at Stanford. So just a very savvy, like good head on his shoulders kind of guy. And very high effort player too. He's 6'6", 267 pounds. So this is a guy that's, hitting those good numbers in terms of measurables for a tight end. He had a 9.9 RAS with a 4.740. Great splits there, elite explosion, no agility testing. Last year in 12 games, he had 49 catches for 545 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2024 in 12 games, he had 40 catches for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this is a guy that came into Stanford, started off mostly a special team sophomore. He finally got more of an offensive role. He's shown improvement in his production year after year. He's a Senior Bowl standout. He really is blown up after his combine performance. He's kind of like a media darling right now, entering that second tier conversation where he wasn't over the last few months. The athleticism's there, especially for some of these 267 pounds to run a 4.740 is fantastic. He's a great blocker, maybe one of the better blocking tight ends in this entire class. That'll help him stay on the field. I mentioned his effort, very, very high effort player. And you see that with the ball in his hands as well. He does have a little bit of shiftiness, but he's not going to, light the world on fire with his run after the catch ability. The biggest issue that I have with him is drops. He does have a true drop problem. I think there was the quarterback rating was 75, 78%, something like that when targeting him, which is not good. His route running, he's not creating a ton of space with his route running. It's more about his speed and his size, and that's how he kind of separates himself from defenders. But there's a lot of work to do. I mean, the drops are a legitimate concern. I think his route running can improve. But he is just a very sound guy. His blocking will help him stay on the field more often than not, and he could be that tight end one. I think he's a guy who's very under the radar. He's probably going to go in the 4th round, maybe up in the 3rd round. We'll see where the NFL draft capital is on him, but I do like him a lot as a player. There's just one other guy that I like a little bit more, so you'll have to stick around because I will be drafting him in roster moves.
Interesting. I think Roush is a guy who's been rising more recently, or people are maybe being turned on to him more recently. But he's a bigger bigger tight end, I suppose. Like all these guys we've been talking about are 245, 250 max. He's a bit chunkier. He's a bit bigger. But yeah, good.
Yeah, so the site I use has a rating scale, and Max Klare has a 84.8 rating. And Sam Roush has an 84.7 rating. And he is right now rated as the 4th best tight end in this class. So, yeah.
I think it's because of his blocking, though. I don't think there's any doubt that Claire's the better pass-catching tight end right now. But I do think that with Roush, he could be one of the best tight ends, the most well-rounded tight ends, the most, used tight end out of any of these guys. The blocking gives him a higher floor. It's going to give him more snaps.
Yeah. Last week, I put another light in my basement after Sean said that it wasn't, there's something wrong with my camera or whatever he said.
We know we're being critiqued now.
Nobody mentioned it, and
That's good.
I was kind of wondering if nobody watched the Edge one at all, because I also threw in an Alberta Canada accent. Nobody commented on it, so I was really upset about that. I think people thought I was trying to make a Scottish accent, but I wasn't. It was Alberta, so. And
well, if no one's mentioning it, that's a good thing. You want it to be.
Yeah, I just want Sean to recognize. That's all that matters.
All right, Sean, you heard it. We'll know if you didn't listen. If you're not 59 minutes and 30 seconds in, you didn't hear that, Tyler's going to be calling you out. So keep an eye out for that. Well, that's going to do it for this week, guys. We have 2 episodes left And next week, we are going to do 2 position groups. We're covering defensive tackles and defensive backs. After that, the grand finale, the one that everyone wants to hear, it'll be the running backs. Week gap, NFL draft. We are almost there, boys. Exciting times. And we got RFA kicking off next week, too. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Actually,